2, 1, and we're live. Welcome to the live stream show. Today, I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you somewhat, but hopefully, I'm going to be able to make a change that will even be better than what you were expecting. Because today, our topic was all about uncertainty and how to turn uncertainty into opportunity. And to help talk about that, I was bringing on a special guest. Her name is Meridith Elliot Powell, and she has written this amazing book called Thrive, and this is the topic. The topic is, how can you take all of the stuff that has to do with things that we don't know, things that are out of our control, things like, oh, you know, the pandemic that have hit us like a ton of bricks, and we don't know. We just don't know. And it seems like, you know, the sky has fallen, or a piano has fallen down on our heads, and we're either running around going, oh no, I don't know what to do, or we go into this tailspin and we lose out. We lose our business, we lose our relationships, we lose our car, we lose our guitar, and we end up with kind of a miserable existence. So what I love, and unfortunately, Meridith contacted me last night saying something had come up. She's in conflict. I'm going to have to reschedule my conversation with her into the future, and so she's going to pick a new date, and we will bring her back on. But I will share this one thing. Because I've been spending the last 2 weeks listening, not reading, but listening to her book. I like to listen to books on Audible. And so I've been listening to Meridith all week long. And the thing that she has done that I really love is this. She has basically used this method that I call positive deviance. And what this means is that when you're looking to solve a problem, instead of coming at it with like expert opinions and outside points of view, you go into the world and you find the individuals who had the same resources as the rest of us, and yet somehow, and yet with those same resources and the same outside crisis, uncertain crash thing that happened, they were able to prevail. And she's taken stories from individuals going way back in time, way back in history, who were dealing with stuff that's even bigger, even worse than what we've been going through in the past year. And this is where I found inspiration. I was like, oh my gosh, like, and I'll share one little quick story. I'm going to tell you a little story now. There's a guy named Jim Beam. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's the one, I didn't actually know this, you know, Jim Beam is a very popular brand of bourbon. But what I didn't know was that Jim Beam, the man, actually created bourbon as a thing. Like, it didn't exist before. So way back, I think it was around like the end of the 1800s, he developed a distillery and he developed his special recipe for bourbon. And so his business grew and he got distribution and it was doing really well. And guess what happened? In the 1920s, Prohibition. So talk about getting shut down. I mean, all alcohol sales, all places that served alcohol, you couldn't even own it in your home. Like, alcohol was illegal. It was completely against the law. So his business just basically got thrown out the window. And this didn't last for 1 year. It didn't just last for 2 years. This lasted for a decade. And so, you know, what was he going to do? So, you know, he, in the meantime, like after everything had to shut down and he had to let everybody go, he kept a hold of, first of all, he kept his recipes secret, and he waited carefully for the opportunity for when alcohol would be made legal again, that he could jump in and jump right back into the marketplace. And he did all these things so that he would be ready for that moment. And when, in fact, Prohibition was listed, or I should say lifted, when Prohibition was lifted, Within 3 months, he was able to rebuild his distillery and be back in business. And he was the first one. Like most of his competition had disappeared and died and gone away. And now, of course, we know the story, and that Jim Beam is now like the popular brand that we all know of. And this was a story of resilience, but it also was a story of, there was an opportunity here where when Prohibition ended, there was this opportunity to be jumping in right at that moment because the demand would be gigantic. And he was able to be in a position to take advantage of that. So the book is filled with these kinds of anecdotes, and my takeaway from that story is that, oh my gosh, whatever we're dealing with now, whatever the deal is with, how COVID and the shutdown and social distancing and all of the rest has affected your business. First of all, it's not as bad as 10 years of prohibition. Like, things have happened in the past that were worse, and during those times, there were people who turned that change into an opportunity so that ultimately their business did even better. And so the lesson is to look at, well, what can you look at now that makes an opportunity, that sees the opportunity in this moment in time. In this moment in time. So this is why I'm so interested in talking with Meridith, when we can bring her on. But today I have a whole different topic. And I'm just going to check and see if you're here. I'd like to know that you're here. So say something in the comments, just say hello. And what I'm going to bring up today is how to do, this is, the reason I'm doing this is because there's a lot of people continually asking me about growing your audience. And how do I build my audience? And if I'm going live, how do I build my audience? And if I'm doing a podcast, how do I build my audience? And if I'm doing stuff on social media, how do I build my audience? And so what I'd like to describe today as a way of entering this topic is to talk about basically the 3 basic models, the 3 basic archetypes that you can identify yourself as in this mode of audience building. Okay? And I'm going to ask you a question, and you can think about it, and I'll play the intro, and then we'll dive in. So the 3 archetypes are this. There's the evening news anchor. All right, I'll say that again. The evening news anchor. And you all know this kind of person who is out there in the online world, whether they're a broadcaster or they're a social media person and posting all the time, or they're a podcaster, and they're showing up continually. That's archetype number 1. And then there's what I would call the generous host. The generous host is not there all the time, every place. What they like to do is they get together with one person, or they get together with a small group of people, and they really like to connect in that way. Like, they like to connect directly with small groups. And then the 3rd type is what I would call the best kept secret. And the best kept secret actually doesn't need to do much in the way of online marketing. They don't really need or have much of an online presence. And that's because they work most carefully with one-on-one, and they really are delivering results, so much good results for their clients that the clients come back to them and go, oh, this is amazing. And they talk about their friends, and they get a lot of referrals, and so they don't really need to do any marketing because referral stuff happens. So I want to talk about these 3, and I want to see which one you might identify with the most, and then which one you might be the best fit for. That's my topic for today. And in the comments, tell me who you are. Do you think you're number 1, the evening news anchor? Just say number 1. Or if you're number 2, the generous host. Or if you're number 3, the best kept secret. Now I am going to pick one as my recommended thing, for you. And that's where we're going today. So let's hit the intro. Recorded live in Boston, Massachusetts, this is the Livestream Show. In a world full of underexposed entrepreneurs, the Livestream Show is your gateway to a global community of livestream pioneers who dare to go live and create something special and unexpected, which could only happen because it was live. I'm your host, Brad Powell. Let's get on with the show. And we're back. All right, so did you figure it out? Are you number one, the news anchor? Number two, the generous host? Or number three, what was number three? Can you remember? Number three is the best kept secret. And so 1, 2, or 3 in the comments. And before I get into the explanation of what those three are, I want to do a really short thing at the start here, which is going to be my live stream tip of the day. And this fits right in with growing your audience. So there is something really, really brand new going on LinkedIn. And if you're on LinkedIn right now watching me, say so in the comments. Say, I'm here on LinkedIn. Because what I'm doing right now is I'm multicasting, and I'm going live to LinkedIn, I'm going live to YouTube, and I'm going live to Facebook simultaneously. But each platform is different, and the reason you might want to do streaming onto one or another is because of the advantages that one platform has over another. And in terms of organic reach and organic promotion, LinkedIn has just added something new, which is phenomenal in terms of organic promotion. And I'm going to share that right now because I actually used it to promote this particular event. So first of all, you want to think of your live stream as an event, that you are hosting an event, it's live, and in this case I was bringing on a guest who unfortunately isn't here, and under the topic of uncertainty, we can never know for sure whether things are going to go the way they want. So live stream tip number 1 is that no matter how prepared you are, no matter how ready you are, no matter how many ducks you put in a row, because it's live, because it has to happen at a certain time, because you are in fact creating a show when you go live, an actual live event, things will go wrong. Things out of your control will go wrong. And so when you're doing an interview series like I'm doing, sometimes for whatever reason, your guest is not going to make it. And so you need to have something in place to where you're going, okay, no problem, I've got other things to do, which is what I'm doing today. And this topic that I'm talking about today is something that I'm really interested in. It's something that's come up a lot with the people and my clients who I've been talking to. So I want to share with you. So over on LinkedIn, when you are hosting and scheduling in advance a live event, when you schedule an event in advance, which you can do, which is terrific, something gets posted, like your event gets posted. But on LinkedIn, all of a sudden, this is brand new, when you schedule a live stream, they turn it into a special page. They give you an event page. And on that event page, you can invite any of your connections. And it doesn't matter like how many you have. So you can pick the ones you want to invite, and then you can just click a little button, and two things happen. They'll get a notification like they would normally do on LinkedIn. But in addition to that, they will get an email to their personal email that comes from LinkedIn announcing your event. And so this is great. Like even, and you want to be careful in how you do this because the people who you're connected with on LinkedIn are not on your email list. However, used judiciously and used in a way where you know that certain people in your group, because of the topics that you cover, are really interested in hearing or participating in a particular live event that you are going to host, then you can invite them to come. And this is powerful. And even if they don't come, even if they don't make it, they will know that it's there and they can watch the replay. And you are basically top of mind. Like, you are now known, and you are becoming known for the fact that you are hosting a live event on the LinkedIn platform. And so now people are going, oh, look, they're hosting this event, and they do it every week. And if I wanted to participate in this live event, I could. And if one goes by that's interesting to me, I could surely show up because I would like to be there. And in this case, get a chance to talk with the author, asks the author certain questions. So that's my tip. Get access to live streaming on LinkedIn, and then take advantage of this brand new feature where you can automatically create an event page and then be able to directly invite your connections on LinkedIn, who will receive not only a notification but a direct email from you that your live event is happening. It's so good. Like, this is really powerful, potentially like hugely powerful. So there you go. Now, it's important to drink a lot of water, even when you're streaming. So let's go into the audience building. So let's talk about the news anchor. So we're talking about 3 archetypes. There's the evening news anchor, and there is the generous host, and there is the best kept secret. So the news anchor, this is the person who usually, even if we aren't this person, it's the person we think we need to be, or it's the person that we want to be. And if you're thinking this, it's not your fault. This is something that we're all taught. Like, the language and the lesson that you will get most often from online marketers is to be out there, show up often, have that online presence that is omnipresent, go on as often as you can, in as many places as you can, and do it all the time. And one of the people who is the complete evangelist for this kind of marketing is Gary Vaynerchuk. And if you know anything about him, you will literally see him everywhere, all over the place, all the time. And it seems like the method is to be completely outgoing, completely extroverted, completely, in your authority and confident, and jumping out there with this bigger than life persona that goes online. And if you are a person who thrives, I guess like Gary Vaynerchuk does, or seems to do, if you thrive on that, then this could be the best thing for you. But I think, truthfully, for the rest of us, for most of us, myself totally included, this is not our best thing. Like, it's not our best way to be. And in fact, it leads to burnout. If you try to do this, and if you are more of an introvert, and it really doesn't suit you to be showing up, it really doesn't suit you to try and be shouting louder than all the other people, it's just not your style. This is just not, it's just not going to work. Like, you could try it for a little while, and you might learn to be more confident, and you might learn to be able to articulate your message really clearly, and you might learn to, do it on a regular basis. But at some point, you'll hit a brick wall, because most people who are not extroverts, and this is totally myself, like, I can go out and do presentations, and I can do very extrovert-like things, and sometimes in those settings, I like doing it. But afterwards, I have to recharge. Like, I have to take time out and regroup and get some space where I am not doing that. And that's, that's just the way I am, and it's the way I have to be, and I think this is true for lots of us. So there you go. That's thing number 1, is the the news anchor works for extroverts. And the unfortunate part of big lesson in marketing is that we're all being taught that in order to succeed, you have to be like an extrovert. And I'm here to challenge that and say that's not true. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, you have the best kept secret. And this is the coach or consultant who really likes to work just one person at a time, and they're really focused on results, and they're really focused on delivering these results to their client. And they're good at it, and they get really good results, and they do such a good job that that client who gets the great result tells all their friends about the great result they got, and then their friends come knocking on the best kept secret's door because they know where it is. They've been told the secret. Oh, go find her over here. So that's all word of mouth, and often for certain coaches who have a high ticket offer, that's all they need to run a reasonably successful business. The caveat with that is that where the burnout happens is that you can only handle so many one-on-one clients. And so if it ends up that your schedule is completely full with doing one-on-one work, first of all, you hit a limit of how much you can grow. So you hit a limit and a ceiling on how much money you can earn. And once you're there, you're full. And often when you are full, you're working too much. Like you're feeling overworked and overburdened by serving all these one-on-one clients. And so there's no leveraging of your time. And this is where, another kind of wall happens for this particular archetype, the best kept secret. And because they haven't been doing anything online, because they've been relying almost entirely on word of mouth, when they hit the wall, they're really stuck. So now we come to number 2, the gracious host. Now, the generous host is someone who is in between those two. And by working with not just one person at a time, but working with a few people at a time, they're able to leverage their time and actually earn more, because when they meet with a group, even though the group participants might actually not be paying as much for the same service, because there's a group of them, you're making more money. There's much more revenue coming in. And you can work with multiple groups. So if you have multiple groups going, you can have fewer groups than one-on-one clients and be earning actually a whole lot more in terms of your revenue. So on the income side, the leveraging is huge. On the marketing side, you want to look at your marketing in that same way, that you are now hosting an event. And it's kind of like you're hosting an online party. And so think of, you're inviting people into your home, and you're engaging them, and you're introducing them to one another, and you're bringing your groups together. So like in this case, when I'm live streaming to LinkedIn and to Facebook and to YouTube all at the same time, I'm bringing my various connections on these different platforms all together for this one-time event. And they can see each other. Like if you comment here, I can bring your comments up on the screen, and you can see, oh look, there's someone over from YouTube, and oh look, there's someone on LinkedIn. And so I am making a little social gathering. It's virtual, but it's a social gathering, and I'm able to engage with my audience in this way. And for me, this kind of interaction suits my personality. It suits my personality because I can do this and be more of an engaging, maven, connector type of person, which I like to be. And of course, when I'm bringing on a guest, I can actually do the one-on-one conversation with my guest, which I really enjoy doing. Like it suits my personality to go into a deeper, more meaningful conversation with just one person. And this is totally different than being the big evening news anchor broadcaster. So the generous host, I think, is the sweet spot, especially for the non-extroverts among us, the people who aren't the Gary Vaynerchuks of the world, the people who actually don't resonate with someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, and they feel like, that's not me. In fact, if I were to act like Gary Vaynerchuk, I would be going against the grain of who I am and my own person. And so all of this, what I'm talking about is that, you know, the lesson that the marketers are teaching us is that in order to be successful, in order to market well, you have to do this extroverted version of marketing. Which means that if you are not an extrovert, you need to change who you are. You need to act like an extrovert. You need to pretend that you're an extrovert. And I'm going, rubbish. That's not true. You can be very successful and market yourself in these other ways. Market yourselves where you are being true to yourself, where you do not have to change the kind of person you are. You do not have to change the way you are, like your own inner being. You can be very successful as a marketeer doing these things that completely suit your nature. So you can be the generous host, and at the same time you can do one-on-one conversations, you know, both those things combined, and you can grow a very successful business. A very successful business that takes advantage of all the things that the best kept secret has. People will refer you, people will get great results, people will bring their friends, and you will have the leverage of being able to do your best work with small groups of people, leveraging your time so that you're not hitting that low ceiling of only working one-to-one. And yet you will never, never have to feel like, oh, I have to be like Gary Vee. So there we go. Now, if you would like to go further, if you would like to go deeper on this topic, like how can you market well without selling your soul and changing who you are, right? That you would like to know how to do that, I have actually created a free training. It's free, doesn't cost anything, and it's actually a bingeable audio podcast series, and it's called Big Reach Audio. It's my Big Reach Audio Guide. And so if you would like that, just say audio guide in the comments. I'll DM you and send you a link to where you can go get it. It doesn't cost anything. And when you get it, it's going to come as a private podcast. So you'll actually be able to put it onto your favorite podcast app, like the Apple Podcast app on your phone, and then listen to it whenever it suits you. So I think this is actually an exciting new way to deliver content. And so I'm taking advantage of it by delivering it to you. And that's what I have to offer you today. So I just want to just check my numbers here. Thank you guys for joining. I'm looking for comments. I'd really like to know, were you number one, the news anchor? Is that who you are? If you are, awesome, go for it, like do it. If you're big on being the greatest show person on earth, do that. Like when I was a little kid, I was heavily influenced by the show, The Music Man. And you know, in The Music Man, I don't know if you've ever seen it, that, you know, it was a Broadway musical. I actually saw the show on Broadway when I was about 5 years old, and it completely blew my mind. And then, of course, they made it into a movie later on. And the movie was, the guy who was in the movie was Professor Harold Hill. I'm trying to think of his name. It would have come to me. Robert Preston. Robert Preston was the star. So anyway, Robert Preston plays the part of this guy who comes into this little tiny town in Iowa. And his thing is that he convinces the town that what they need is a marching band for the boys in the town to keep them out of trouble. And he gets everybody in the town all enthusiastic about the idea of music and music making, and all the kids, you know, even the teenagers who are troublemakers, they're getting excited, and all the parents are getting excited, and even people who were arguing with each other are now singing together in harmony. Like, I saw this story and I just went, oh my gosh, here's a guy who, just by sheer enthusiasm, is getting all these people super enthusiastic and excited about this movement that he's creating around music. And to me, I was like, I want to be that. I want to be able to go into the world and help people get excited and enthusiastic about something. And honestly, that's been a big influence on many of the things that I've done in my life, not the least of which is what I'm doing now. However, I know that even though I could, and I have, gone out and been kind of a, circus ringleader type of show person, like announcing events and things like that, and like I've done this, like in my past life being a performing arts director, and where I would come out and introduce shows. I've done that. Like I've been an MC. I've done that kind of thing. For the moment, like in the moment, when you come out and you're only talking about 5 minutes or less, you come out and you do this entertaining thing, and then whoosh, you're off. Now I can do that, and that's probably why I can do short form video pretty well. Like I can get on and I can talk for 5 or 10 minutes, and then whoosh, I'm off. But in between those times, like even between a live stream like this, I take time out. Like I take time for myself, and I recharge. And then I can come back like next week and do it again. The idea of doing like the Daily Show or an evening talk show where you have to do this for an hour every single night, no matter what, oh my God, that would be such a burnout. Like I couldn't imagine keeping up to that pace. So this is where I'm at, and super inspired by the Music Man, but I'm much more of a Seth Godin type, is what I would say, in terms of how I like to show up. So I'm just curious to see if that's you. If it is, check out the audio guide. Check out the audio guide. Say, I want the audio guide in the comments, and I'll make sure that you get it. And don't forget to tune in next week. I go live every Thursday at 11 a.m. The live stream show goes live every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll be back next week. And until then, so long, everyone. Goodbye.